So today we are going to discuss the organization chart, and particularly organization strategy. So this is the organization chart in TouchStone, and just as a quick reminder about how TouchStone is organized, we have a list over here in the 4 functions of all your processes. So every process is listed here into these 4 categories. The organization chart is a picture of your positions, your people. How these 2 tools relate to each other is all of the processes here in the 4 functions list will be linked to one position or another on the org chart. So we're taking all the processes here, all the work that happens in your business, and we're assigning accountability for that work to these various boxes on your organization chart, which represent positions, people you would hire. So that creates what we call a job description. So when you select one of these boxes, once you've linked your processes, you'll then see all of them on what we call a job description. So that's how this circle happens between the 4 functions in the org chart. Over here in the 4 functions, everything's by category, it's by subject area, as opposed to here in the organization chart where it's by position. It represents who does what in the organization. It's kind of a good exercise to see these 2 tools separately and when you create them separately, because usually in a business, people are just generally thinking in managers about getting work done. And you've got people that do that work. And so you hire someone, and maybe you hired them to be a salesperson. As the business is growing, they start doing other things that you need them to do. And you've got this one position that you've hired for sales, and at a certain point, you don't even know what that person's doing because they're just kind of filling in whenever they're needed. And this is kind of the chaos of a growing business. What else happens is you start to become dependent upon people because they are kind of multitasking and learning how to do everything, filling in whenever they need to, being good at everything in some cases. But before you know it, it's that person's kind of customized their own job around themselves, or by default, the business has done that. So that creates what we call people dependency. So this exercise of thinking through the work that needs to happen first, then thinking through the structure and the people that you need to have, and then deciding which positions do what work, then breaks you out of that people dependency mode and gets you thinking more structurally and using processes to run your business, not people and what they're good at. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we discuss, what is organization strategy and how to build a good one and more importantly, how to use it. But first, let's just talk about the functionality of the organization chart itself. So this is a template chart. When all of you got your TouchStone accounts, it wasn't exactly this one, but something similar is what you started from. And if you want to add boxes to your chart, it's really easy. It's just this little plus sign right here. So when I select this, I just type in the name of the position. You always want to keep it a position name, not a person's name. You don't want to put people's name into the box because then that creates more of what this people dependency idea. You want to have it a position title and then somebody fills that position. So then you hit the drop down here and you just tell TouchStone which box to put it under. So you're essentially choosing the manager. So which box does this go under? And then I hit save, and then TouchStone adds the box. Once you've added boxes, you can move them around the chart pretty easily. So I can take this box, and I'm just holding my mouse click down, and I can drag it and move it on top of this box and then let go. And then TouchStone puts that box underneath the one I selected. So the chart is drag and drop. But the thing to remember about it is you have to put it right on top of the box. If I put it down here or up here, it's just going to throw it back to where it was. So drag it, wait for that to turn green. This little box gives you a green outline letting you know you're on it, and then let go, and then this position will fall underneath. if you want to move, if you want to move a position that's got boxes underneath it, like this one, so if I wanted to take this and move it somewhere else, you can see it's going to drag this box, although it appears, and when I let go, it's actually moved the whole tree. So when you move a managerial position, it's going to take the subordinate positions with it. If you want to move the managerial position or the position above, but you don't want to move these two, then you're going to have to move these away temporarily to other positions. And then once this is at the bottom, it can move on its own. So it's pretty easy and easy to get the gist of how to move it. Just practice around. You're not going to mess anything up. If you move boxes around and it's not moving the way that you want, just remember the bottom one can always be moved, but when there's one above, it's going to move the managerial, the one above, and the one below. To delete boxes on the chart is this little X. So the plus sign is to add a box. The X is to delete a box. So if I select this X, it's going to give me a drop down, and I choose the position that I want to delete, and then I hit delete. This little error message up here is telling you that you can't delete positions that have subordinate positions. Okay, so let me delete this one, and then I'll show you what we mean by that. I can't delete this box right here if it's got a box underneath it, or a position underneath it. Because if you delete this one, TouchStone doesn't know where you want this one to be. So in order to delete this one, you have to move what's underneath it away to another manager or another tree, and then when this is at the bottom, then it's available to delete. All right. This next icon over here is for printing. The org chart print feature in TouchStone, isn't perfect. It has issues that we're working on figuring out, how to upgrade. Eventually, we're going to be doing some work on features and functionality of the org chart in the summer release, and printing's on that list. As it stands now, you can print your org chart, but you can only print it in sections. So here, my org chart's too big to print on one page, so I can print half of it. I hit print this page and then print the other half. Another way to do it is to go to Simple View. This puts your organization chart in an outline format like this, and then if I go to print it, I can print it, with this structure. So that's Simple View. Tree View, if I go back to Tree View, I can drag and zoom in and out right here. Or if you're using Chrome, you can just hit the Control key and do plus or minus, bring the screen bigger or smaller. The issue is when you shrink the chart down too small, then it doesn't look good when you print it anyway. So this is kind of like, the web environment and why it's difficult to print. A solution that I like for printing the chart is to use a snipping tool. So this right here is called Jing. It's a little sun. And Jing is a free screen capture tool that you can download for free on the internet. Jing is what it's called. It's the free version of a bigger tool called Snagit, which you have to pay for, but I get a lot of use out of this free version of Jing. So I can take a picture of my organization chart just by doing that. So now, once I capture it, now it's a JPEG, or once I save it, I can save it as a JPEG or a PNG file or a GIF file, and then I can print it. So this is a print solution that I like. It's pretty easy to use and do. All you need is a way to capture your screen pictures, which you need anyway if you have TouchStone, because taking images or taking pictures and putting them into your documentation is a great thing to do. So then this picture's in Jing. Once I save it, then I can print it. Another quick thing about Jing, you can also do video screen captures. So here, if I hit this capture video, it gives me a little countdown. I don't have a mic going directly into my computer, but if you did, you could do voice over internet. It's capturing this video, and I'm clicking here, and I click here, and so you can kind of talk about, what you're doing. You can show how something is supposed to look, and then when you're happy with it, you hit finish, and then Jing loads this little video for you. And you can take these videos and you can upload them into your process tools. So down here we have this little video uploader, and I'm going to talk more about this when we get to that session, but I just wanted to plug Jing a little bit more because this is pretty cool to do these screen captures and then be able to have those for training purposes. All right, so let's go back. I did this once before, but I'll just show it again. This is tree view, which we're in now, and then this is simple view. If you have a large organization chart, like I was in someone's account the other day and they had like 50 boxes. So it was a huge company. It was like a 300-person company. So their org chart was massive, and it's hard to see it in tree view. You can drag the chart pretty easily like this. So I'm just holding my mouse key down and I'm getting in the white space. If I pull away from the white space down here, it's not going to let me drag it. So I have to be, in the white space of the chart, and then I can move it all around. So if you have a large chart, you can go over and over and over. But, it's much easier for me, or at least for me to use a bigger chart if I hit it simple view. You can even drag it up and down here in simple view. But here you see it more like an outline. So that's tree view and simple view. To edit a box on the chart, so to edit the position title, all you do is select the box, and then it's going to take us to the job description screen. And then right here up at the top, you just click. And then here you can edit the position title. So the position titles aren't edited on the face of the chart. You have to select the box, and then you go to the job description, and you can click to edit the position title. Right underneath the position title, there's this sentence or phrase underneath here. And I'll talk about this again when we get into job descriptions next week. But this is the objective or the purpose of the position. I've got this one listed out like a phrase or a sentence. It says, ensure all customers are satisfied with the company's products and services. So think big picture with these. What's the overall result of the position? Some people like to put in like key indicators or objectives or results. So you can list things in the objective too, results or key goals. So I've seen that, and I think that's kind of cool too. It's nice for a person when they get hired to know, these are your top 3 things that you're meant here to do. It really gives like purpose and focus for a position or a person. But the only thing I would say about this is if you're going to do it this way, like listing the 3 top goals and the 3 top results, as opposed to writing out a sentence or a phrase, then just be consistent. So for every box on the chart, do it that way. Don't do one with a sentence and one with key goals. So that's really the basics of the chart. The functionality of the chart itself is pretty easy to use. You'll notice here in these boxes, I've got these little numbers. So the numbers represent how many people fill that box. So if I have 2 appointment setters, I don't need 2 boxes that both say appointment setter. If I have 3 entry-level service techs or reps, I can put the number 3 if I want to be reminded of how many people fill that box, but you don't need 3 duplicate boxes. Because when you click the box, remember, here's the job description for that position. And as long as these 2 people do the same work, then it's just redundant to have more than 1 box with the same work on it. In fact, it's kind of, it will be confusing because up here in account administration, when you assign people a control panel or you go assign them user access, if we go here, you're going to see, if I had 2 customer service people, you'd see 2 boxes called customer service, and you really wouldn't, you'd have to link John to both, or, it's redundant and confusing. So use a numbering system rather than having multiple boxes. In addition, it makes your chart smaller. There's no reason to, make it so big. If you want to put people's names in the boxes, you can. Just have the header be the position title, and then if you want to put 2 names in here, you can. I don't think it's really necessary because when you assign someone a position over here in account administration, when they log into TouchStone, it looks like this. Here, I'm logged in as me, and I know I'm these 2 positions because here I've been assigned to them. And furthermore, managers will know, they'll see the position titles for the people who fill those roles. Like here's appointment setter, and we got Bill and Bob here. And this all shows up on the home screen. So it's not absolutely necessary, it's not even necessary at all to put them on the org chart itself. But having said that, you can do it. You also notice, like here, I've got a hire date. This is another technique that I think is good. If you build your chart for the future and you are going to hire a position in at some point, and you can kind of envision, is it going to be the fourth quarter of this year or the fourth quarter of 2018? You can't always pick an exact date. That's a bit ridiculous when you're thinking 2 years into the future, but think of like a quarter of a year, and you could put hire 2017 Q4. And then what that does is it reminds you when you look at your chart, like what positions you're filling first, second, and third, and kind of where the business is, what your hiring plan is. Okay, so let's talk about building a good chart. So what are some techniques or things to think about? So number one, you want to think about, you want to create departments for your company. You'll notice in this chart we've got sales and marketing department, operations, admin, finance. These are generally speaking, the three main departments that a business would have. There are variations of this where some people like to have the finance department and then admin separated, but generally that work has good uniformity. So uniformity of work is a good organizing principle in any business. You want to think like work and happening in like departments or in that department. So like, for example, here in sales and marketing, we got everything related to advertising, marketing strategy, and sales all happening within that department called sales and marketing. If you, and this is a pretty simple example, but it makes the point, if you break this up, so under this department, you have a person and you have all the advertising happening, and then you put your sales, over here in admin finance, which hopefully you'd never do. That's not good uniformity of work, because these people are support positions. They do the work that supports the company through financial activity as well as administrative activity, human resource activity. If you throw sales in there, then suddenly the work isn't uniform, which causes inefficiency. So think uniformity of work, think departments with key results. So if you think of the four key function titles, this is getting the business, so getting new business in the door. This is doing the business, so delivering the products or services right here. And this is running the business, administration, finance, support. Guiding the business happens all up here at the managerial level, all the way up to the board of directors. So the guiding processes from over here and guiding the business and strategy all happens at the managerial level. So think uniformity of work. Also consider your levels within the company. So starting at the top here, we've got board of directors, which is like the entrepreneurs, the owners here at the top, the shareholders. Then we have president, general manager, CEO, whatever you want to call it. This person takes direction from the board, so takes that vision that the board has for the company and implements it throughout the company, and generally manages all departments. So here, above every department, there's a manager in my chart. Manager here, here, and here. So think about your managerial structure. If you're a smaller company, envision of how this is going to need to grow into the future. If your business is kind of like people aren't doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, that you have like inefficiency, there's just general chaos because there's no leadership, you have bad managers in place or no managers, then try to consider, this kind of structure where you've got, a managerial position above the department and then the key technicians below. So imagine the managerial structure. So the best way to approach your chart is to think about your vision for the business. If you're a manager on the line right now, or even someone who's in the company who doesn't manage employees, you can still use this concept when you're thinking about your department or the work that you do. So Imagine it in the future. Another way of saying it is, what are your goals going to be? What do you want to do in the business? What sales do you want to get to? What goals do you have in terms of growth geographically, if any, or adding new services? There's a great tool over here in the Guiding the Business library called the Strategic Planning, which I'm going to show you at the end of the webinar. But something like that, where you're thinking, where is my business going to be in the next 2 to 5 years? Once you have that image in mind, then you want to build the chart as a picture of that business in the future. So imagine your business, 2, 3, 4 years out. You can go to 5 years, but I think anything past 5 years is just really hard to plan for. So 5 years, almost seems like it's too far out. So think about what's realistic to you. Sometimes people have like milestones, like goals that you have, either when you want to like sell your business or when you want to get out of doing the work yourself and just kind of be the chairman of the board and manage it from afar. So think about your personal goals and then also, what seems realistic for your business. So you have that figure in mind, then start to build the chart as a picture of that business in the future. Try to let go. This is a strategic exercise, so try to let go of people, personalities, who does what now, anyone you have in place that may not like the org chart. Just kind of let go of all of that and really draw this anew. Just imagine you're planning your business like you were never able to do in the beginning because it just took off too fast or whatever the situation is. Imagine you're planning it. What is the ideal structure for a business that size? So starting at the top here, I think this box is a really good box to have. Sometimes people want to delete it because I get questions like, how do I delete the top box? And what I say generally is don't delete it. Even if you don't have a board of directors, this box represents the owners of the company, the entrepreneurs, the shareholders. That's the formal way to say it. You may have a functioning board, and that may make perfect sense to you, but if you don't, then consider what this entity means. It's the agenda of these people, the owners of the company, the shareholders, is to maximize the value of the business. So all of this down here, all these people care about is maximizing the value of that asset, the net profit that it earns, the dividends on their shares. It's a much different agenda than all these people down here. When you're in the trenches, doing sales or being the service manager, whatever your business is dictating, you're not thinking about maximizing the value of the business. You're thinking about getting it done. Just get it done. Answer the calls, get it done, doing it, like Michael Gerber says. The people up here, they don't care about any of that. They want to maximize the value of the business. So it's just wearing a different hat, and I think it's important to represent it and actually live in this box sometimes. The president, position right down below, takes this direction up here of these people saying maximize the value of the business and then implements that strategy technically throughout the business. So if the board says increase the conversion rates of all of our sales so that we are worth more, the president says, okay, sales manager, what is the strategy for getting that done? The manager creates the strategy and then says, okay, salespeople, this is how we're going to generate leads and this is how you're going to sell them. So there's this flow of strategy from the top all the way down to the technical work. If you're missing this person and you're missing these people and this person's so busy doing all this down here, nothing happens strategically. So this creation of a new future organization chart kind of gives you a chance to implement this type of strategy or this type of thinking now, even if it's just a couple hours a week. So the president sits below the board of directors. Below that, we have the three main departments. Let's start with sales and marketing. So we already made the point about why this managerial position is so important, but I'm just going to say a few more things about it. Managers have to not only create and implement strategy, but they need to document and manage the processes by which all these people get their results. So that's what a manager does. They manage processes by which people get results. So they're getting work done through other people. That's what the managers do. If there are no documented processes, if there is no procedure, then that's not possible, right? It's impossible. So this manager can't manage processes if they don't exist. So what they're left doing is just managing people and craziness, really. There's no way to train, there's no way to monitor, there's no way to keep on track. So when the board says increase sales, and the president says, okay, sales manager, we need to have more leads and we need to convert at a higher rate, this person says, okay, cool, let's do that. Salespeople convert at a higher rate, and they slam their fist on the table and say, come on, let's do it. I know you can do it. Well, like, that's advocating accountability. It's not really delegating, and it's fruitless, and it really is frustrating because it's difficult for salespeople and it's difficult for management. The other way around is the manager says, okay, let's document a sales process. Let's think of response modules. Let's further scrutinize our leads to make sure we're getting qualified leads. Let's develop a process for all this. Now that's real control and power. But if you don't have this managerial person here kind of holding up that light and pushing it, it's difficult to get done. So in a sales and marketing department, there are generally, two key things that happen. There's the creation of the leads, the generation of the leads, and then there's the converting of those leads. So over here in the 4 functions, if you think about the getting the business area, we have like a lead generation or an advertising sub-function, and then we have all those processes, and then we have a lead conversion or sales sub-function, and we have all those processes. So that's the work that needs to happen. So in your business, you just need to consider, who do you have to do that work? What positions do you need to do that work? If you're thinking about the business in the future, and you know that you want to double in sales in the next 3 years, or grow by $1 million, whatever it is, then think about that number and consider what lead generation activities or advertising activities are going to need to happen in order to create enough leads, and then how many sales people are you going to need to have in order to convert those leads. So you can quantify it a bit. I always laugh when people say that marketing is an art. I don't think it's an art at all. It's a science. There are activities that create quantifiable results. And if you keep thinking of it like an art, then it becomes uncontrollable. It's like word of mouth and referral. It's just like it's there or it's not there. So think about quantifiable, clear activities that create consistent results. And then consider what positions and how many you're going to need in this department. I think it's worth pointing out, although it might be obvious, but it's a much different skill set, somebody who can convert leads and somebody who generates leads. It's different. So especially with social media and everything that's happening on the internet now, lead generation is a much different thing than sales. So consider having those be 2 separate positions. Then we get to operations. So in an operations department, depending on your industry, you want to think through the key things that you do and structure positions accordingly. If you have 2 different services you offer and 2 types of positions that offer both of those services, then definitely I've seen operations departments with 2 or 3 sub-departments underneath them that represent those different services. So think about what your structure is for this, the type of positions that you need. The operations department, their main purpose is to deliver those products or services in a profitable fashion. That's the key result that operations needs to get, and really nothing else. They need to deliver those results profitably and effectively, same time, every time, exactly as promised. That's what they need to do. If the operations department does that, they deliver stellar service, stellar products profitably, then you're going to win no matter what. So again, the key to that happening is having good processes. So here are a few techniques that I've just seen work within an operations department. You'll notice these levels that I've got here. So this is the entry level. And then this is the a level above, the lead level or the senior level. And then here's the manager. Some businesses can have 3 below the manager, so they can have like apprentice, entry, and junior, senior. So whatever your version of this is, the idea is that you've got levels within your organization. You bring people in here, you train them on these processes, they learn them, and then they move here. And then you train them on these processes, and they learn them. They become masters of it. So the path from here, entry level to here, takes time, takes effort, takes training, right? You have to take someone with little or no skills, train them up in what they need to know to become competent, and then they move them up here. So this takes creating of a training system. And TouchStone shows you the training system. This position here, oh, that one's blank. Let me see if I have another one. This position here has got processes that they have to learn. These processes are documented, and somebody takes them through 1 through 9 here and trains them in how to do that work. You can even start to say, okay, cleaning the warehouse, how long would it take somebody to learn how to do that? A competent person, how long? Maybe a day. Okay, site inspections and reports, how long would that take for someone to learn? Okay, well, maybe a week. So you can roughly assign hours to each of these processes. And then you can times that by what you're paying this person, add some managerial overhead time, and then you could know more or less how long and what it's going to cost you to take a person from here to here. Now that's invaluable in any business, because if I know that it's going to take me 6 months to take someone from here to here, and it's going to cost me $60,000, well, now I've got control over that number. It's not going to be a surprise, and I know exactly what I'm going to have to spend. It brings on a whole other meaning to having a good recruiting and hiring system, because all of you know painfully well, if you make a bad hire and you spend 6 months training them in $60,000 and they can never get here and they never do the work well, that's just, the worst thing for a business owner. So having this kind of power and control, seeing it in your organization chart, knowing the time it's going to take, being able to have processes so you can evaluate this guy to know in 2 weeks that he's never going to be able to do it well rather than 6 months is huge. It also helps you in scaling your business. This is a term that's thrown around a lot, but scaling basically means your ability to ramp it up, replicate yourself over and over again, grow, duplicate your same little franchise prototype over and over again, be able to handle 50% increase in growth because you know exactly how to scale up your operations. So it has to do with this creating of levels, this knowing the skill sets of your employees need to have, and then having processes to train them. The problem happens for a lot of small business owners when they think that they can go and find this guy all the time. Well, I can just go find the senior guy. I need that guy. How come we can't find those employees? They're so difficult to find. Our recruiting doesn't work. We can't find these people. The flaw in that is that, you don't always find those people, and that's not a scalable model. It's not an easy thing to say, okay, I'm going to grow my business, and I have to find these experienced people who know how to do it exactly like Bob does, or know how to do it exactly like I do. That's the frustration of not being able to grow, and that's what causes businesses to kind of get to a plateau and not be able to make it over that. I'm sure most small business owners have experienced this over the years. You get to a certain level of sales and you just can't get over it. No matter what you do, the leads may be coming in, the sales are happening, you just can't break through that wall. And it's because of this issue of scaling, being able to balance operations with sales and marketing. So think about this. What is your model for that? If service companies, it's the same thing. Restaurants, you can see it easily like in a retail or a restaurant. I hire someone in to be the hostess, and then they move to the waitress, and then every business has this. and you just have to figure out what your version of it is. Next, over here in admin finance, this is the support department. That's what I've been referring to it as. We call it running the business, but it's basically all of the people who support the rest of the company. So all the work that happens here really helps all of these people out here do their job more effectively. So another way to say it is, to the degree that this department is minimized and these people here are having to crunch the numbers, answer their own phones, do their own administrative things, deal with broken computers, deal with bad hires because they were just too busy to screen someone properly, to the degree that they have to deal with stuff like that is the same degree that they're not income generating. They're not making more sales and delivering those sales in a profitable way. So think about this department, your overhead department. What are the services that the rest of the company needs so that they become more profitable or more efficient? So generally, bookkeeping, finance of some sort, absolutely essential work, and essential to get done right and to get done in a timely way. So all of you know, some of you with bigger companies have 10-person finance departments by now. Some of you have 1 or 2. But universally, that finance work has to get done effectively, correctly, and on time, because these are the record keepers. And they give that information back to all these people so that they aren't walking around in the dark. They know what they're doing. If the money isn't being counted correctly and it's not on time, it's not current, then we have no chance of even knowing what the sales conversion rate is. These people can want that all day long, but if it's not being counted, we have no way. There's no way of knowing how profitable these people are. We have no way of knowing if these entry-level people are delivering the products or services in a profitable way, with money left over after these people have sold it for a certain price. You just don't know, because and if the information is 3 months old or even 60 days old, even 30 days. With online banking, there's no reason for your P&L and your financial data to be more than 30 days late. IT, so I don't have to say anything about that. You guys have everyone knows. Like, if your computers go down, if you get a virus, if you don't have up-to-date technology, if the software breaks down, it impedes work across the board. So having good processes for this is necessary. And human resources. I don't have a position that depicts that. In a company that I would say is this size, this person probably does the HR work, but those are just basic things that every business really needs, like an employee handbook, good agreements, good employment agreements, policies and procedures around work ethics, safety, things like that. These are just little things that they just can bite you hard if you don't do them correctly. And there's no reason not to do it, because a lot of the templates or actual documentation for HR type things is pretty readily available. You don't have to invent it new. In fact, we have a ton of stuff over here in our Running the Business library. New employee onboarding, that's one I didn't mention. That's a really important process to get down right and have someone do well. And you spend a lot of time and money to get the right people in place, and if not onboarded correctly, then they quit, and then you've lost all that money, you got to start over again. So think about your organization strategy. Imagine it into the future. Think about your levels, your departments, your managerial level. Think about your growth, your entry level up to your lead, up to your senior positions. Even the sales department can be that. These can be sales people, sales lead. On an organization chart, just because these people here are underneath this position, it doesn't necessarily mean that the lead service reps manage the entry level reps. They may mentor and train and kind of guide them, and you may have processes on this job description for that, but this person's the manager. So it's all about how you interpret it. You don't, just because one box is under another doesn't mean that that's the official manager. It could mean that that's just your levels, or that's one guides the other, one is lead to the other. A good rule of thumb for managerial positions, so here's this ops manager, it's kind of hard for one person to manage more than 10 employees. In fact, it's very hard. Somewhere around 8, I think, becomes kind of the top tier. So at that point, if you're thinking about the growth and the number of positions, you might want to think of throwing in a senior position or a lead position. Because if this guy is running around trying to manage all 10 of those people and doing it well, it becomes just too hard to manage that many people effectively. Doesn't mean this person isn't doing other things other than managing people, but just the physical bodies. If you're being managed well, you won't have access to your manager. So think about the levels. So once you've built out your future organization chart, the next step is to marry the present with the future. So just because the chart's for the future doesn't mean you can't use it now. In fact, you should use it now. So what that means is people will fill more than one box on the chart. So you may be the president of the company, you may be the marketing manager, the operations manager, and the admin finance manager. You may also be the service manager, and you may also sell things. Hopefully not. I mean, that's a terrible thing I just listed out there. But it could be that way if you're a smaller business trying to grow. So that's an example of using the future chart in the present situation. If you've got a person who is a lead service rep, but is also the sales manager. So the service manager's position, there isn't enough reps underneath to really warrant a full-time service manager. So this person is the acting manager and then also a service rep. That's another situation. Or you've got, a bookkeeper who's also the receptionist and the IT person for now. So think about your people and put them into boxes for the work that they're doing, even if it's multiple boxes. So there's a couple of rules around that. The first rule is you can't have two people's name in one box. That's only one position. Now, two people can be here because you may have two appointment setters. But two people can't be the manager of marketing and sales. It's just a dysfunctional situation. If two people think they're that position, then my guess is nobody is that position, and nobody's doing it well, neither one of them. So think about where you may have crossed those lines. Generally, how it happens is you've got a really great salesperson. You're like, hey, let's promote him to the sales and marketing manager. Let's let him do that work because he's so great at sales. Well, that can be very difficult for that person because they're promoted beyond their capabilities and strengths sometimes, and then they're put into roles that they have no idea how to fill, and they end up failing. So if you've promoted someone past their capabilities, or another way to say it is past the documented processes and training that you've developed, then rethink that. Use the organization chart as a chance to kind of redirect people and say, I know we put you here. We're going to put you down as lead sales for now, and then we're going to work on the processes for this position. We're going to document those, and then we'll show them to you, or you can help us with them, and then we'll talk about you going back to this role. It's usually a relief to the employee, honestly. So two people can't be one box. Two people can't even be president. And I had this the other day in a strategy meeting where there were two owners, and they're like, well, we're both president. It's the same thing. You can't both be president because if two people are trying to do such an important position, it's likely not getting done, and there's lots of conflict, a lot of personality, people dependency, difficulty comes from that. So make one person the president. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't want to be the president. So make one person the president, and the other person is this or this, and then you're both on the board. This is where you come together and talk about strategy. Another thing to consider is if you have a person who you've become dependent upon, and they're good at everything, and they may do some sales work, and then they also do some customer service work, and then they also know how to work in the warehouse, so they go out there when there's problems and do work there, and then they answer the phone, and then sometimes they do IT because they're also great at IT, and then they help with recruiting and hiring sometimes because you really needed someone for that, and they were available. So we've got this person spread across the organization chart, doing little bits of work everywhere. That is a very difficult job to have, and my guess is if you have a person like that, they are very stressed out, whether they're telling you or not, because you just think about the uniformity of work idea again, and the skill set and the mindset that it takes to do different types of work. Sales people really good at sales are not generally good at admin, finance type things. They're not, and vice versa. So you may have someone spread across the organization chart like that, and what's happening is they're constantly multitasking. They're getting pulled in different directions. Multitasking is not necessarily a good thing. It's like being constantly interrupted all the time. You can't thoroughly get everything done because you're spread across the organization. And then you get, people who are scattered, inefficient, not productive, and you can't even see it because all you're seeing is, oh yeah, they did that. They got that done, sort of. So if you have a situation like that, then take that person and start putting their names in boxes for the work that they do. Think, if you can, if it's at all possible, redirecting their work into one department and giving them multiple boxes within a department. If you can't do that just because of the circumstances, then at least put their name here and here and here into boxes on the chart so they see the work within each of those three boxes, and then immediately have a plan for pulling them back into one box and maybe hiring an IT person or outsourcing that or hiring someone in the warehouse. So make it part of your plan as you step forward to hire new positions, to get that person out of all those boxes and back into one box. So the steps of the organization chart, just to reiterate, think about your future plans. Think about where your business is going. If you're a manager on the line, think about where your department's going, what your goals you have for your department. Then build the organization chart as a picture of that business in the future. So think about what a good structure and efficient structure for the business is. Think about levels, the number of positions, how many people you're going to need within each department, doing that work necessary to then get you to your goals. Then look at your future chart as you've built it, right in TouchStone, and then marry the present with the future. So think about all the employees you currently have. Think about which boxes they fit on in the chart. And then think about hire dates, too, into the future. So what positions do you want to fill in the future? People who are filling more than one box on the chart, create a hire date to replace them with that position. Also think about yourself, what boxes you fill, and what work you want to get out of. So slowly, if you're the owner of the business, you slowly move from down here to here to here, and ultimately just up to here. That's the goal. Sit on the board, collect the dividends, or sell the business at that point. So next I'm going to talk about, I have one question coming up. This person's asking this in a different way, but this is a question I've gotten quite a few times. So they're saying, and let me know, chat me back if I'm not understanding your question correctly. So they're saying, what happens when you spend, and I'm paraphrasing, all the money to get someone trained all the way up to this position, the 6 months or however long it takes, and then this person leaves. I think that's a valid concern. You spend all the time and energy and money training, learning processes, the management time. You get everyone up here at the entry-level technician position. They're doing really well, and then they leave. There's not an easy answer for that. The best answer I have, and I stole this from Michael Gerber because he's in the E-Myth book, he talks about this. Create a game worth playing. So create a place where people want to be. He calls it create a game worth playing. I've also heard it called, getting the right people on the bus. So what I mean by that is create an environment where people thrive, where you have great managers in place, really educating, training, focusing on process and not on personality, being nice people nice managers to be around. Create a company where people are happy, where they're fulfilled with the work that they do, where there's no yelling or fighting, where it's an environment where people are happy to come. Not everyone loves to go to work. I hate this saying, like, love what you do. Well, that's important, but people, you get tired of going to work some days. It's not always that way. But if you have a culture in your company where there's support, there's training, there's strategy, there's focus on the future, there's positivity, well, that's a game worth playing. That's a place where people want to be. And if you create an environment like that, all the people from your competitors' companies are going to come work for you. This person's going to leave their company and come work for you. And that's the kind of business you want to have. There's no other option. You've got to train your people. You've got to train your people. There's this cartoon I quote all the time that I saw in the New York Times, and it's a picture of a CEO and the CFO. And the CFO says to the CEO, well, what happens when we train all these people and then they just leave? And the CFO says, yeah, but what if they stay? What if we don't train them and they stay? Well, that says it all. You've got to train them. Otherwise, your business will never be successful. Okay, so I'm going to show some tools over here that are in the process library that I think really support the building of your organization chart and the using of your organization chart. So the first is in Guiding the Business right here. And it's called strategic planning. So inside of the strategic planning process, there's these different work plans in here which talk about, how to do good strategic planning. So you can watch these and read through them. It's pretty educational. You just go through and read the text. These are just kind of strategy work plans which give you some context for creating and using a strategic plan. There's questions right here called strategic target questions. So the first step is developing some kind of a vision, coming up with some kind of a plan. So your organization strategy really needs that, because if you're going to build it for the future, you need to know where you're going. You don't have to spend a ton of time on this. Spend a couple hours on it. Answer the questions. Answer things that are relevant to you, and leave the things that aren't. Having a vision for your company, even if it's a 2-paragraph vision or even if it's 1 page, really can help you create this game worth playing. Because if you're passionate about your vision, that's going to show. If your managers are passionate about your vision, that's going to show. If the whole company is passionate about your vision, well, there you have it. Then you're really moving. The energy is moving in the right place. So have some kind of a plan, even if it's just by the year 2020, we will reach $5 million in sales with a fixed cost of 30% and a net profit of 5%. Even if it's just something like that, general descriptions. Then there are all these forums on how to, let me go here first, how to implement the plan. So this is why this is called strategic planning. It's not just creating the strategic plan and putting it on the wall and saying, here we are. You have to take steps towards it. So this form can help with that. So you have this 3-year strategic plan, say, and you say by the end of the 3rd year, you're going to get to 10 million in sales. Well, then break it down and say, well, what do we need to do in 2017 to be on track with that? What do we need to do in 18? What do we need to do in 19? Then once you have the annual goal, then break it down into quarters. So think, what do we need to do each quarter? And it's not just about sales numbers, it's also about, any of the other things that need to happen in order for you to achieve those numbers. So it could be hiring that needs to happen. It could be processes that you need to document. It could be, software you want to implement. Whatever those tangible things are that need to be done in order to get you to those goals for that year, break them into quarters like you're seeing now here. It could be 1 or 2 things a quarter, and then you could write out the action that you took that quarter on that. If you get to the second quarter and you haven't done the first quarter, roll it on to the second quarter. So this is just a way of like taking what might be an intangible vision and then breaking it into, these quarterly goals that you can follow. So that's strategic planning. Another tool that I think is just paramount for organization strategy and for, business success in general is a budget or a financial plan. So we've got this process in the library called budget creation, and here there's lots of tools that are here, like how to create a budget, how to monitor it. There's some uploaded files here. This is the budget template. There's a little bit on how to do ratio analysis, break even if you're interested in that. So this budget template is very simple. It's a spreadsheet. That's all it is, with categories for sales, and looks like this. Some of you who have better financial systems or bookkeeping systems can get this out of your bookkeeping system maybe, where you can project out a budget. But why this is important is for organization strategy is we're starting somewhere, and then we've got to get somewhere else. So with this organization chart, this is how it looks now, but this is also where it needs to be one person's name in each box in 3 years. So there's a financial plan from here to there. And the budget, having a rough financial plan or budget can kind of help you step towards that. You could also look at things like, if we hire this guy in Q4 2017, we have to add that money to our budget. Can we do that? Are sales high enough? And those are questions that can be kind of thought through on the budget. All right, so next week we're going to talk about job descriptions. So I'm going to discuss technically how to build and use the job descriptions, how to use the functionality, how to link processes from here to the job descriptions. And then we're going to spend the next half talking about how to manage with job descriptions, how to use job descriptions. So if any of you have managers in your company who you want them to learn more about how to manage processes, how to manage people with processes, and how to use job descriptions to do that, then next week would be a good session to have them come and join the meeting. All right, thanks for coming, everybody. I have a few questions that I'm going to answer right now over chat, and I'll look forward to meeting with everyone again next week. Bye.